Welcome in to Outkick the Show. I am your fearless leader, Clay Travis. Outkick the Show brought to you by Oddshark. Go to Oddshark for all of your gambling and informational related news. Let's go ahead and count it down because I'm fired up and I'm about to tee off on this damn doctor who is an idiot. 3, 2, 1. Hello and welcome into Outkick the Show. I am your fearless leader, Clay Travis, and this is Outkick the Show presented by Oddshark. Go to oddshark.com for all of your gambling and informational related needs. I am going to blow your mind with the truth here, okay? Everybody's focused with this doctor on the United Airlines. I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about how nuclear war with North Korea is inching closer and closer, and I'm going to close out with some NBA playoff talk. But let's start with United Airlines and this doctor. All right. I am so over this doctor playing the victim card, okay? Here is the doctor in the most basic level. Everybody today is talking about how he got his teeth chipped and how he got a concussion and all this stuff. He's probably going to show up in a full body cast soon. Here's the truth of the matter. The doctor got what he deserved when he refused to listen to the police. This is not a complicated story. I don't think United Airlines is a perfect actor here. I think they certainly could go back and change the way they implement their policies. But here is the simple truth. I want to start with this. I fly all the time. Do you know how many times ever in the history of my flying career 3 police officers have boarded the plane to deal with a passenger? 0. Okay? Never before has that happened. The number of you who have been on an airplane and had 3 police officers come on board the airplane is also 0. Okay? It almost never happens. We had callers to the show yesterday who worked in airport security. He said it almost never happens. I'm not talking about like an air marshal who might be traveling, and I'm not talking about a police officer who might be traveling in uniform or even taking a prisoner with him. I'm talking about you're at the gate and somebody is behaving in such a way that 3 different police officers come on board the airplane. I've never seen it happen. I have flown all over the country. I have flown outside of the country a bunch of times. I've never seen it happen anywhere else. Here is the simple truth. When police officers board the plane and tell you that you have to walk off the plane, here's what you do. Here's what you do, and it's not a crazy thought. You walk off the fucking plane. Period. Okay? That's what you do. Just like the 3 other people who got inconvenienced here. Now look. I'm not saying it wouldn't suck. I'm not saying that I wouldn't be upset. I'm not saying that I might even be angry about it. I would be furious. But you know what I would do? I wouldn't let them drag me off the airplane. And you know what else I wouldn't have done? Like this doctor did, I also wouldn't have traded pills for gay sex. It's almost like, well, why does that even get brought up? Because it's almost like if you have a felonious history, you have a history of making bad fucking decisions. And this guy was trying to play the I'm a doctor card. I got to get back to my patients tomorrow. Is that the patients you're giving pills to fuck you in the ass? Oh, really? Interesting kind of doctor to me, okay? That's the truth of the matter. It is 100 billion% relevant because he said, I'm a doctor. If you're going to file a lawsuit, I'm going to put you on the cross-X stand. I'm going to say, doctor. You made a big deal about the fact that you're a doctor and you wanted to be able to get back to your patients. Well, in 2005, could you have done that? In 2006, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, you were not a doctor. Why not? Oh, because you lied and committed fraud and allowed your own pills to be traded for gay sex, even though you're still married to a woman? Gay sex in a hotel room secretly? Oh, so you've lied before and had your medical license stripped. Oh, that's interesting. So you have a history of making bad decisions under your medical license, and you made another bad decision under your medical license. That, my friends, is a bad motherfucking plaintiff, okay? This guy, people say, why do we always hear about people's prior history when they have an issue with authorities? Because to me, the people who typically have issues with authority have probably had issues with authority before. And I just wanted to ask you this question. If you were a doctor who had lost your medical license for 10 years because you gave pills to people for gay sex, which is all true, 100% he did, would you be the kind of guy who wants to draw more attention to yourself? If you had a family, guy has 5 kids, if you had a wife who stuck with you even though you were having gay sex with other people a decade ago and it cost you your medical license, by the way, don't know what kind of motion in the ocean that guy has, but I can't imagine very many women staying with their husbands when they publicly get caught having gay sex and trading their pills for sex. But more power to that woman for standing by her man. Patsy Cline, indeed. Here's the truth, all right? Would you put yourself into a situation where you were going to become the center of another controversy? If you had just lost your medical license for a decade, would you ever be drawing more attention to yourself? If 3 police showed up beside me and I had been on probation for 5 years and I had lost my medical license for 10 years, the last thing I'm going to do is refuse to leave the airplane. The moment that those police officers show up, my ass is up and it is out of the airplane. And I'll take the $1,000 or whatever they're going to have to give you in order to get bumped. It sucks, but you only got a 5-hour drive. Get in a car, get in a rental car, and drive. Now, I don't think United was perfect. Certainly, United can work on its decision-making. But when police officers come on board the plane, something that I've never seen before, something that I have never seen in my history of flying, when police officers come on the plane and tell you that you have to get off the plane, you know what you do? You get off the fucking plane. This is not complicated. And you certainly don't then complain that you got injured when police officers took you off the plane. That's because you got dragged off the plane like a bitch while screaming because you wouldn't get off the plane and walk. Here's the other thing. This incentivizes people to not listen to authorities on the plane. I know it sucks to get bumped off a flight. I know it sucks to travel and not be able to go where you want to go in the time that you want to go there. But all this is going to do is incentivize people to not get out of their seats now. Because they're going to think, what are they going to do? They're not going to drag me off. And mark my words on this. There are going to be flights where people sit for like 7 or 8 hours. Because now you got to sit in. What can the cops do? United said we're not going to take people off the plane like this again. So what do? You can't do anything. The guy wins. Now other people are going to copycat him. They're going to stay right there on the plane. They're going to refuse to leave. And everybody else on the plane is eventually going to start to riot. Because they're going to be like, hey, get off the plane. Here's the other thing. If this guy doesn't get off the plane, then somebody else has to get off the plane. It sucks. I agree. It sucks. And people out there are saying, why are you overbooked? You overbooked because 5% of people don't show up for flights. And you want to be able to use every single flight on a plane. So if suddenly, and I've had to do it a ton of times, so if suddenly on the day of that flight, you have to rush over to the airport and try to get on a plane, they might sell you a seat and allow you to get back to your town. That's why they overbook, because 5% of people don't show up, and this allows them to fill every seat on the plane. That's the truth. I don't know why all these people are white knighting for this guy, including USA Today. USA Today has a headline asking if this dude is the Asian Rosa Parks. My mind is fucking blown. Is there a rule I'm not aware of that prevents Asian people from sitting wherever they want on airplanes? Are Asian people not allowed in first class on the airplane? This is a real headline. This is not me making it up. This is really USA Today, the nation's newspaper. Huge headline. Is this guy the Asian Rosa Parks? Well, no. There's not systemic racism against Asian men in America today. In fact, Asian men in America today make more money than any ethnic group in America. Asian men in America out-earn white men in America, which, of course, flies in the face of everybody out there who's saying, oh, this is such a racist country. Well, if it's such a racist country, wouldn't it be tough for Asian men to roll right in here and start kicking white people's ass up and down the country? So much so that Harvard had to change the rules or else the entire university would be filled with Asian people. By and large, Asian people make good decisions. This one did not, all right? This guy got hurt. I wouldn't pay him 1 red cent. I wouldn't pay him anything. People say, oh, this settlement he's going to get is huge. Why? What did United do wrong? United didn't drag him off the plane. That's the city of Chicago. And unless you can prove extreme negligence on their part, and I'm not sure you can, then most police are not obligated to pay more than like whatever the civil statute liabilities are for tort-related issues. And even if they are, that is going to be a negligence standard where everybody assesses the blame. I wouldn't pay him $1 because not 1 red cent. Because I think what you do then is you incentivize everybody on your planes to never listen to flight attendants, to never listen to authorities when they actually step on the plane. I think this is a massive issue, and I think the result is going to be really, really substantial. I don't think there's going to be punitive damages. Why would there be punitive damages? What are this guy's damages? You can't say that you hurt his reputation. He's already publicly been identified as a guy who's willing to trade pills for gay sex and already lost his medical license for a decade. I don't know what his damages are. The damages have to exist. If it was your mother, would you say, take it, Mom? No, I'd say, Mom, get the fuck up and walk off the plane when the police tell you to. I don't understand how fucking stupid some of you are. They had the legal authority to make this guy get off the plane, all right? When police show up and say, get off the plane or else we're going to drag you off the plane, guess what you do? You get off the plane. I don't understand the rational thought here of, no, I'm not going to get off the plane. I'm going to stay in my seat. What do you think is going to happen? The police are just going to be like, oh, you know what? This guy's not going to move. Let's go ahead and just get off the plane. He's staying on the plane. Zero doubt. Zero doubt here. This guy is a fucking idiot. I wish that nobody ever got hurt, but what do you think is going to happen when you refuse to comply with police and they tell you, we're going to drag you off? If you don't come with us, we're going to have to drag you off. And then you don't come with them. They're going to drag you off. Period. Like, why is he a victim? I don't get it at all. You refuse the lawful request of 3 police officers on an airplane in a post 9/11 era. You refuse all of the flight attendant comments. You deserve to get your ass kicked, frankly. What are you going to do? What have you got to do to get him off the plane? Period. And some of you don't understand. My God, it actually makes my brain hurt how dumb some of you are. Some of you don't understand that you don't have a property right to a fucking airplane seat. Like, I don't understand. People are like, oh, would you let somebody just walk into your house and take it away? No, because I fucking own it. You don't own anything on the airplane. They cannot let you on because they don't like your breath. They cannot let you on because you had too many beers. They cannot let you on because you don't have any pants on. They cannot let you on because they consider you to be a threat. They cannot let you on because you're too fucking fat to fit in one seat. Airlines have tremendous discretion after 9/11 in order to make decisions about who can and cannot get on their planes. I fly all the time. This is the truth. You guys don't, some of you are so dumb you don't understand this. God. All right, questions. I am Clay Travis. This is Outkick the Show. What do we have? Understand this. United is paying dearly for their idiot policy. They don't have an idiot policy. They had an idiot passenger. Customer's not always right. Sometimes the customer's a cunt. And in this case, the customer was a cunt. And he refused to get off the plane. He deserved to get his ass dragged off the plane. I would like to be a jury on this case. Because I would give him not one single red cent, period. Period. That's the truth. That's what I would do. And even if you think he's suing, what did United do wrong? What did United do wrong? They called the authorities. If you're upset about the use of force, that wasn't United's decision. United doesn't decide what duly armed police officers or law enforcement officers do. I don't blame those guys for dragging him off. But that's the truth. They didn't do anything. What are you saying they need to do? Like, again, in this situation, if you have a passenger and he refuses to get off the plane, what do? Not take off? Make everybody in the whole plane get off? Maybe that's the answer. Maybe that's what United should have done. Instead, even though it takes 30 minutes to somehow board a plane, maybe they should have made every single person get off and redecide what they were going to do. That's the truth. That's the truth. The other thing is, United was actually trying to inconvenience fewer passengers. I don't know why people can't understand this. They were trying to get 4 employees onto that plane so they could fly it to Louisville to avoid having to cancel a flight. So that 140 people didn't end up missing their flight, they made the decision that they needed to take 4 people off the flight. Why did they make that decision? At the last minute, these 4 people came running up after they had already boarded the plane. I don't know the circumstances behind why that happened, But United at that point in time had a decision to make. We can allow this flight to go to Louisville without our 4 people on it, in which case we have to cancel another flight and 140 or 150 people in Louisville are going to be inconvenienced, or we can inconvenience 4 people. The 4 people usually who paid the least for their flight or checked in the latest. Now there's reports that this guy initially said, okay, I'll take $800, and then decided he didn't want to do it, in which case he actually volunteered and put himself on the chopping block for this ticket and then decided he didn't want to do it. Even still, 3 of the 4 people on this plane got off without incident, with 0 issues. This guy decided he wasn't going to get off. They had to call the police, and because he wouldn't listen to the flight crew, and the police, when they come on a plane, they give you 2 options. They should have arrested this guy too. They give you 2 options. You can either get off the plane or we can arrest you. This happens all the time. How often? I've actually seen this where you land and there are cops waiting at the gate and they arrest you when you get off because somebody was abusive on a plane flight, because somebody did something that was illegal while they were in the air. They then have a police officer waiting to arrest you when you get off. In a post 9/11 era, I think that flight attendants probably get treated the worst of almost any profession out there. And you know who else gets treated the worst? Police officers. I always say this because people don't believe it, but it's true, all right? You are 5 times as likely to get killed by a train in this country if you are unarmed as you are to be killed by a police officer. You are more likely to be killed by a dog in this country if you are unarmed than you are by a police officer. You are more likely to be killed by a bee, a wasp, or a hornet than you are a police officer in this country, okay? That's all true. You are just about as likely to get struck by lightning and killed as you are to be killed by a police officer if you are unarmed. All of those things are true. Okay? If you're not afraid of the trains when you walk out the front of your house every day, if you're not afraid of bees, wasps, and hornets, or lightning, or dogs, then why should you be afraid of law enforcement officers? Law enforcement officers are the biggest protectors of life in this country today, and they get the least amount of respect. And so I'm not saying I always agree with them. Well, all I'm saying is when you're told to do something, and I'm saying this as a lawyer, fucking do it. I don't understand why that's complicated. I don't understand why people don't do it anymore. There's so much disrespect for law enforcement officers in this country today that a lot of times I think they're just sick of having to deal with assholes like this guy on the plane. Why should they have to come on? They come on the plane and this cunt says, I'm not going to get up. What are they supposed to do? Just sit there and stare at him? They told him they were going to drag him off the plane if he didn't get up. All he had to do was get up and walk off. And he didn't do it. So I don't have any sympathy for him that he got hurt. I'll say the same thing about me. I'd say the same thing about my parents. I'd say the same thing about my kids if they were old enough. If a law enforcement officer tells you to get off of an airplane, you get off of the airplane. You take it up with the gate agent. You deal with the fact that you have an issue and you're upset. Everybody's like, oh my God, I saw this 15-second video and the way they dragged him off, it's like an animal. It's like, what do you want him to do? How could they nicely have taken him off the airplane? Honest question. Once the police officers are called in there and he refuses to leave, how could they nicely have taken him off? I guess they could have stun gunned him. I guess they could have tased him. I mean, I honestly want to know, what should they have done? They could have tasered him. People sometimes die from tasering, especially if they're older like him. Again, I come back to this guy has made bad decisions before. He traded pills for gay sex. It's that people are like, what do we need to know about the past? Because I think, you know what the number one predictor of whether you're going to do a stupid ass thing is? By the time you're that guy's age, have you done a stupid ass thing before? Most people who make bad decisions have made more than one bad decision. So I come back to this question again. If you were a rational human being, and you had already been on probation for 5 years and lost your medical license for a decade, would you do anything to antagonize police officers in that situation? Or would you stand up and walk off the plane? Period. I mean, I just asked that question. I don't feel bad for the guy that his past history came out. His past history happened. If anything, I'd want to know if I lived in Kentucky that I was going to the doctor who traded pills for gay sex. That would make me less likely to go to him. That would also make me less likely to trust his medical opinion. Doctor, that's a good question. My presumption is when I walk into a doctor's office that I have not been served by a doctor who has committed fraud and traded pills for sex. That's just my guess. You're not a good doctor if that happens. If anything, I wonder how in the world Kentucky let him get his medical license back. Maybe only because it's the state of Kentucky. I can't imagine that lawyers would get their law license back if that happened. That's a pretty ridiculous situation. So he brought it up. People say, why is this past history relevant? Because he tried to play the I'm a doctor card, my time matters more than yours. That's what happened when he said I'm a doctor. The minute he said I'm a doctor, what he was really saying was, my job is more important than a lot of other people on this plane, and therefore they should go. I have to go see patients. Do you have to go see patients, huh? Are these patients that you're going to have sex with in exchange for pills, like in the past years? Maybe that was why he was so excited to get back. This guy, not a hero, not the fucking Rosa Parks of airplanes. He's a dumb brat who behaved like a petulant, spoiled child and got exactly what he deserved, period. All right. I'm actually concerned about this. While we have been focused almost like crazily, while we have been focused on everything about the boarding processes and United Airlines, are you aware that we are close to nuclear war with North Korea? I think this is crazy. Most people are not reading about this. I've been fascinated by North Korea for a decade. I've read pretty much every kind of book you can about North Korea because the country is just crazy. The country is just totally insane, and they are run by a totally insane dictator in Kim Jong-un, who is, maybe at the moment we start to try to take him out, likely to let loose every major bomb that he has in the direction of South Korea, in the direction of Japan, in the direction of China. I think that we are closer than we have been since all the way back when there was the Cuban Missile Crisis with John F. Kennedy as president. I think this is the closest we have ever been to nuclear war. And honestly, I don't want to scare people because I'm not a fear guy. But I feel like the country right now feels to me a lot like it did before 9/11. I really do. I feel like the country is very similar to what it was like before 9/11. And what I mean by that is I was in Washington, D.C. that summer. I was in Washington, D.C. that summer, and I started law school that summer. When the Twin Towers got hit, I was in torts class, which is an irony for those of you who are lawyers. I was in torts class, and I couldn't even imagine what I was seeing. The internet wasn't what it is now. For those of you who are so young you don't remember it, suddenly you couldn't send a text message, you couldn't make a phone call. The entire East Coast was incommunicado. And it was terrifying because I had a lot of friends in the D.C. area. I went to college at George Washington University. I had friends who were working at the Pentagon at that time, recent graduates from college like me. And so it was a very scary time. But I'm not talking about 9/11 itself. I'm talking about the summer before 9/11. The summer before 9/11, we got hit, before the internet, by one viral story after another. And a lot of you may remember this. It was the Chandra Levy case. Do you guys remember Chandra Levy? Chandra Levy lived right by where I did in Northwest Washington, D.C. She was an intern in Congressman Gary Condit's office. And this became the #1 murder mystery in America. It took over every possible storyline. It was an unbelievable story. Basically, Gary Condit had an affair with his intern, Monica Lewinsky, she was like Monica Lewinsky, Chandra Levy, in 2001. And so in D.C. at that time, it initially started as a small local story. Where is this white woman? Because back in those days, that was what the viral stories were. Every time a white woman disappeared, the country went crazy trying to find the white woman. It was like Nancy Grace's wet dream. She and her pepperoni nipples laid up late at night, rubbing themselves, thinking about it, all right? So this was an unbelievable story. Missing white women was the story of the day. In like 2001, 2002, 2003, every time a white chick disappeared, everybody went crazy, okay? What happened to this white chick? And there were a lot of different white chicks. You might remember Scott Peterson. He killed his wife, Lacey Peterson. There were all these different stories around the same time, okay? And it is amazing, like, we were focused on all of these individual true crime stories, murder mysteries. Meanwhile, Osama bin Laden is planning his assault on America, and everybody is obsessed with what happened to Chandra Levy. Well, nobody knew what happened to Chandra Levy. Gary Condit ends up having to resign. I think he gets charged with a crime. And ultimately, what happened with Chandra Levy, nobody knew. Because 9/11 happened, and everybody just forgot. Everybody forgot about Chandra Levy. Well, years later, they finally found her body in Rock Creek Park. And that was the end of the murder mystery. They knew that she had been murdered, and then they found out the guy who had killed her, they also were able to catch him. But this was years later. And in retrospect, that was also the Summer of the Shark. Do you remember the Summer of the Shark? It was one popcorn spectacle after another on local news and national news. Summer of the Shark was like they decided a bunch of people were getting attacked by sharks. And so everybody came in, they were covering all these shark attacks like sharks had just decided we're going to war with people at the beaches. And then they had like an emergency cut-in where they found like 30 sharks off the coast down in the Gulf. Some of you guys will remember all this. And they were all popcorn stories. It was basically the equivalent of the summer blockbuster except in local news. I think that's where we are right now. I think that's where we are right now with these viral stories. Everybody's focused on 15 seconds of viral videos. And meanwhile, right now, we are rapidly advancing towards a confrontation with North Korea that could start as early as Saturday. We just dropped the biggest bomb in Afghanistan, I believe, since the atomic bomb that we dropped in World War II. This is an unbelievably huge story. It's true. And a lot of people don't even realize that. And I think the reason we dropped that bomb was partly to go after ISIS, but also because we're trying to send a message to North Korea that if they have these deep underground subterranean taverns in which they are refining nuclear weaponry, that we believe we can reach it. And this is a message that we're trying to send to North Korea that they're not safe anywhere. Meanwhile, we're trying to get China involved. I've been arguing this for a long time because, like I said, and amazingly, I'm obsessed with North Korea. I'm obsessed with their culture. I'm obsessed with their crazy leaders and their dictators. And I've been saying for a long time that the safest thing we could do in this country, and I was saying, go back to my friends in law school, when George Bush came out with the axis of evil and he said it was Iran, Iraq, and North Korea, I was telling everybody I knew, we need to go into North Korea. I'm not worried about Iran and Iraq. Iraq sucks. I would hate to live there. But Iraq treats women a lot better than many of our allies did. You know, Saudi Arabia, women can't drive cars. In Iran, they can't go to soccer matches. Women were treated pretty well in Saddam Hussein's Iraq. That was a totalitarian country. But Saddam Hussein, and this is what other thing I said, Saddam Hussein was not a religious person. All right, I don't want to try to negotiate with an extremely religious person because that person believes that if they die, they're going to go and have sex with like 72 virgins or whatever the heck it is, and they're going to be a martyr for their religion. That person I can't interact with. Saddam Hussein I can interact with. The dude liked liquor, bitches, and power. All right, you like liquor, bitches, and power? I can talk to you, right? I can sit down with you and negotiate with you. You want women, you want power, and you want to party. Like that's what totalitarian dictators are about. You can deal with them, right? Saddam Hussein basically just a big rapper, all right? You can sit down and negotiate with that guy. He's a businessman. He wants money, he wants power, and he wants women. That's rational in this life. He doesn't want those things after he dies. Those are people who are scared. So I said at the time, I don't like Saddam, but I feel like he's a dictator we can handle because he's not an insane religious dictator. Kim Jong-un is fucking insane. And so I've been saying for a long time the best thing that can happen to the country is if we knocked out North Korea's leadership and reunified the Koreas like we did the Germanys, East and West Germany, we would create an economic powerhouse of dynamism and capitalism in the Koreas. And eventually North Korea would become like East Germany, and the intertwining of those two economies would create a trade powerhouse for the United States and for the Pacific Rim. It would be a net benefit 1,000-fold for the rest of the world. And so that's what I look toward. If we're going to try to remake a country, I want to remake a region like we did with the Marshall Plan, like we did when we took down the Berlin Wall and unified Germany. I want to create a dynamic, vibrant, capitalistic economy that's rooted in democracy like Korea would be. Okay? So that makes sense. The challenge is, and look, it's game theory. Everything is game theory. People say, how do you predict what's going to happen? The reason why North Korea wants nuclear weapons is why. If they have nuclear weapons, then we can't overthrow their leadership. It's a rational decision from an irrational group. If they have nuclear weapons, then we can't go in and take them out. And so they're rapidly trying to prove that they have nuclear weapons because their theory is once they have nuclear weapons, we won't be willing to attack because there could be millions of people who die in the process. The challenge that we've got is how in the world do we get Kim Jong-un out when we don't have reliable ability inside of that country, and when he's so irrational that if we start to attack, I guarantee you he's got one button he can push that will blow up a ton of different bombs, and you can't stop them all. Some of them are going to hit tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people potentially could die. What we need, ridiculously enough, is actually a strategic strike like in the movie that Seth Rogen and James Franco made that set off everything in Sony and led to the hacking crisis. We need to be able to just decapitate Kim Jong-un. The world would be an infinitely safer place. He's the craziest dictator we have seen probably since Adolf Hitler. I mean, in all honesty. And if we took him out like they did in that movie, then we potentially could deal with North Korea. So I'm terrified. I'm terrified that this is going to be a major international incident. On Saturday is, I believe, the 101st birthday of the founder of North Korea. And the expectation is that they're going to try to prove how far in advance they are with the nuclear weapons and set one off. And I think everything that we're doing with China, everything that we're doing with Afghanistan, I think everything that we did with Syria was about Trump sending a message to North Korea that he's not afraid to act. I think Syria, for that reason, was really a message from Donald Trump to Kim Jong-un, hey, asshole, I'm not a pussy. I think dropping this bomb on Afghanistan and going after ISIS, it definitely served the benefit of going after a terroristic network, but it also helped to send a message to North Korea that their ability to refine nuclear fuel in subterranean chambers was not immune from our ability to blow them up. So this is all a very complicated three-dimensional game of chess. And here's what's a little bit scary. We don't have necessarily rational actors making decisions. We've got Donald Trump on one side, who is, I think even Donald Trump's fiercest admirers would say, a tad bit unpredictable. And then we have Kim Jong-un, who is certifiably insane on the other side. So you've got three-dimensional chess taking place, and then you've also got China trying to figure out what they're going on with, and then you've got Russia, which now is suddenly all up in arms. This is a mess. And we have never been closer to nuclear war in my life, and probably not closer to nuclear war at any point in time than during the Cuban Missile Crisis. All right, what questions do you guys have? I don't know if we can put troops on the ground in North Korea because the challenge is, and look, I'm not an expert in military tactical warfare, but the challenge if you put troops on the ground in North Korea is that it takes too long. What you need is really a decapitation of the government. The problem is we don't know where the government is. So if we did a tactical strike, we're just as likely to miss Kim Jong-un and then allow them to attack us without any ability to defend ourselves. So it's a mess. It's a total mess. That's truth. All right, questions that you guys might have. Question. Yeah, let's use Google Earth. Google Earth will probably know where they are. Basketball bomb with Rodman. Great question. Basketball bomb with, I think, this is crazy, but do you know who I think the best negotiator with North Korea would be? Michael Jordan. The word is that Kim Jong-un grew up such a fan of the Chicago Bulls, and obviously that was reflected when Dennis Rodman went over there. I think if we sent Michael Jordan over there to negotiate, I think Michael Jordan might be able to get the Nobel Prize and get him to give up nuclear armaments. Like if Michael Jordan would play on the North Korean basketball team in the Olympics in 2000, whatever the next year is, 2020, I think MJ could go get a Nobel Prize. I think he could add to the six NBA championships a Nobel Prize. And then the funny thing is, like, next thing you know, LeBron would be over in China trying to get his own Nobel Prize, right? LeBron would be like, "Hey, I care about the world too. Everybody talks about Michael Jordan's Nobel Prize. How come they don't talk about me wearing a safety pin on my jacket? How come they don't talk about the time that I got kicked in the groin and came back and played in the game? How come they don't talk about the time that Draymond Green called me a bitch and then I came back from a 3-1 deficit?" People just don't want to give me any credit. I'm speaking as LeBron James now. But yeah, I think Michael Jordan could 100% get a Nobel Prize if we sent him over to Korea to be our lead negotiator. There's no doubt. Yeah, I know that North Korea people have no food. That's great. That doesn't mean that the rich people don't have food. And that doesn't mean how much food does it take to push a button to send a bomb to go blow up? Not difficulty at all. Okay, additional questions. Anything out there? I got to go get my kids at school soon. I'm Clay Travis, by the way. This is Outkick the Show. Let me tell you right now, I go to 38 Cottages. I'm going down for 2 weeks to the beach. Go to the beach yourself. Go to 38cottages.com. Use the code OUTKICK. You get 5% off. Why stay in a house or a condo or a crappy motel when you can stay in a mansion on the beach like I do. Get there now, and you'll be glad that we did. I talked all about the United Airlines situation, and I appreciate all of the feedback. Tebow probably could save us. Although I think he's too close in age to Kim Jong-un. Kim Jong-un didn't grow up a fan of Tebow. I think there's a decent chance we're going to drop a bomb on the fat little dictator too. The challenge is, do we drop a bomb at the right place, or do we incentivize him to try to go ahead and send off multiple bombs? I think, in all honesty, you guys may think I'm crazy, but I think if Donald Trump could depose Kim Jong-un and reunite the Koreas, he could win the Nobel Prize. Some of you think that I'm crazy about this. I'm telling you right now, in terms of the benefit to the world, if Kim Jong-un could get knocked out of power and we could reunite the Koreas, destroy the demilitarized zone, unite Korea as one vibrant democracy without North or South, like East and West Germany, I think that Donald Trump would deserve the Nobel Prize. Now, people out there, the liberals, are going to lose their mind. Sometimes the man meets the moment. I think Donald Trump is crazy, but I think it's such a big accomplishment for the world that if we reunited the Koreas and then we did it with Donald Trump as president, potentially he could get the Nobel Prize for it. Now, they may not vote for him because they don't like him, but in terms of his overall impact, it would be much more substantial than what Obama got the Nobel Prize for. And it would mean more for the safety of the world than anything that Barack Obama did, Bill Clinton did, or George W. Bush did. I mean, I'm not kidding about that. In one fell swoop, if we deposed North Korea and made it a democracy again as part of Korea, Donald Trump would have done more to make the country safe than anybody since Ronald Reagan. Making the world safe since Ronald Reagan. That's 100% true. So 30A Cottages. 30acottages.com. It's a great area of the beach down on the Gulf Coast. Best beach in the continental United States. 30, the letter A, cottages.com. Go look at all those beach mansions you can rent. It is incredible. Okay. Any additional questions? NBA playoffs. Man, the only real... I'm interested to see what's going to happen with Utah and the Clippers. I'm interested to see what's going to happen with Russell Westbrook going up against James Harden. And I think the Cavs are going to lose 2 games to the Pacers. I think they're going to win 4-2. I don't think the Cavs are going to win the NBA's Eastern Conference. I think they're a shell of the team they were last year. And they went 20-21 on the road this year. The last time an NBA champ went under 500 on the road was 1978. It was before I was born. So I don't think it's going to happen. I think the Warriors are going to win. I think whoever wins the West, if it's not the Warriors, will win the NBA championship. I think the Cavs are a shell of the team that they were last year. They can't defend anybody. And I think the Warriors are just rolling into the best part of their season. They're peaking at the right time. Steve Kerr has them in the right position. And I would not be surprised if the Warriors swept. In the event that the Cavs get there, I wouldn't be surprised if they swept them 4-0. Okay, love you guys. I've got Golden State. I think Golden State is going to win the NBA playoffs. They start tomorrow. Listen to our show tomorrow from 6 to 9 a.m. Eastern on Fox Sports Radio. That's Outkick the Coverage. I am Clay Travis. This is Outkick the Show. If you enjoyed this, you can point out, not only is Clay Travis the best in sports media, he's probably the best damn person at breaking down the United Airlines controversy and at breaking down North Korea. You want to talk about range? I got it, motherfuckers. Come hang with me, and you'll be smarter than you could have ever dreamed of. Don't be a pussy. DBAP, my name is Clay Travis. This is Outkick the Show, and we will talk to you tomorrow.